It seems you are working on so many different ends and handling so many different projects in totally different fields. How hard working are you? Do you ever sleep?
I do sleep, yeah. I actually measured it in terms of what the amount of sleep is that I need. I find I need about 6 hours of sleep. Well, 5 hours and 55 minutes on average.
Wow.
Yes.
Why do you need such an accurate calculating?
I got an iPhone app and measured it. And it said, on average, I sleep 5 hours and 55 minutes. That's what it said. But I do work a lot. For a while there, I was working over 100 hours a week. Now it's maybe 80 to 90, If you can translate that into a product that people can experience and that they like and that delights them, then that's a good measure of the success of the product. I really like the fact that when people buy a car, that they experience delight, and for many people, they've said they've told me it's like the best product they've ever bought, and it made them happy. And there was one person who said, like, whenever they feel sad, they can just go to they go to their garage and look at the car, and it makes them happy. And I was like, that's cool. That's really cool.
So what actually made them happier?
That's what they told me, the car.
Yeah. What's your explanation behind this? Why this could make people happier?
It's a beautiful car. It does a few things. Like when you approach the car, it senses that you're coming, and the handles extend, and it kind of prepares for you to come, and it's almost like a pet. It's like.
But do you still have that kind of freshness when you use the car yourself, or you have been used to that and lost the excitement?
In my case, it's a little tricky because I'm always looking for what's wrong. In order to make the car better, I always have to be thinking. I have to think very critically, and so when I see the car, I see all the things that I think need to be fixed to make it better. And so it's certainly it's easy to lose the sense of wonder, or just see the flaws. But it's a difficult thing to reconcile, because if you want to make something better, then you must analyze it for the flaws.
Yes.
And but then that kind of prevents the enjoyment of it. It's a difficult dichotomy.
It seems that you believe in the fact that we're all going to drive electric cars, and maybe someday only by computers, not by human beings.
Yeah.
You still believe in that?
Well, I think it's fairly clear that, to me at least, that all transport will go fully electric. Better for the world from an environmental standpoint and from an economic standpoint if we transition to electric transport sooner. Will help with pollution and global warming and all that stuff. And I do think we're headed towards an age of autonomous transport where you just summon the car with your phone or something, and then get in, and you just tell the computer where you want to go, and it takes you there. It's going to happen very quickly. I think maybe in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, but how do you react to some, the public opinion's skepticism? Because it seems a lot of people are watching you and say, well, let's see how far this can go.
Well, I suppose the skepticism about anything new, that's normal. I mean, I'm not expecting that people will just believe me, but I think if you look at, generally my predictions they're more often correct than not. I mean, I'm really just talking about 5 years. We'll have affordable electric cars that go long ranges, and they will be autonomous.
How do you see that contradiction? How could you reconcile it?
It's not exactly a contradiction, because I always say it's important for civilization to be a multi-planet species. So it's not like an escape from Earth and then we all leave Earth and try to go to Mars or something like that.
Why don't we concentrate on saving the planet instead of having the back door open?
Well, I do think that 99% of our effort should be focused on Earth, and really 99.9% of our effort is focused on Earth. But I do think it's worth saying, okay, let's take 1% and try to establish a self-sustaining city on Mars and make life multiplanetary. And I think there's a couple of good reasons for that. First of all, there's always the possibility that there could be some terrible thing that happens on Earth that we maybe don't anticipate. If you look at the fossil record and the fact that there have been 5 major extinction events in the last 500 million years, and what happened to the dinosaurs? They used to be here, they're not around anymore. So that's kind of the defensive argument. And then there's the what I call maybe the inspiration argument, or the excitement. Building a city on Mars would just be this incredible adventure. That there be things in life that are exciting and inspiring, that when you wake up in the morning, you're like, yes, I'm glad to be alive. And I think having this great adventure would be like that.
You know, there's a proverb in Chinese called 杞人忧天, which from 2,000 years ago, there was a man spent the whole day worrying about what if the heaven falls down. So everyone laughed at him and said, you know, why can't you be concerned about something more pragmatic, basically?
Sure.
So you're the guy who is worrying about maybe another, you know, millenniums away that we need to move to another planet.
Well, again, it's not moving to another planet, it's being multi-planet. We're still going to be on Earth, but we'll have Mars too. And we want to become a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species and ultimately be out there exploring the stars. I think that's a much more exciting future than a future where we are forever confined to Earth until some eventual extinction event.
You basically taught yourself a lot of things in a computer programming as a child, and after taking physics and economics in college. You taught yourself automotive technologies, and then rocketry, battery technology, and so on and so forth. What's the motivation behind all this?
Well, I find that I basically learn whatever I need to learn to accomplish an objective. And I think actually most people could do this, but they often self-limit. People are capable of more than they think. I mean, what I've found is if you simply read a lot of books and talk to people, you can learn almost anything.
But was reading also an escape or rescue to you as a boy in school?
It was,
because I learned that you were kind of the youngest in the class and bullied sometimes.
That's true.
So what was reading to you at that time?
Well, this was, of course, back in the days before there were video games, and TV wasn't very good either. So, I was actually, for quite a while, the youngest and the smallest in the class. And my parents moved a lot, so I went through 6 different schools. So it was difficult to, you'd make friends, and then one year, and then you'd be in a new school the next. So books certainly were something that I found comforting, and I would read all the time, just all the time, morning to night. And generally sort of the fantasy sci-fi genre I found most interesting. And I mean, also read a lot of the philosophers and religious texts and that kind of thing, and a lot of nonfiction as well. Read the encyclopedia, in fact, I remember when I was just in elementary school, I was reading about ion engines, and I thought they were super cool. And now we're launching satellites with ion engines.
But how about real figures in history, Isaac Newton or Einstein, so on and so forth? Did you make up your mind to be someone great, someone who can leave a legacy in history for all humanity?
No, I never thought there were. No, actually, when I was a kid, I didn't know what I would do when I grew up. I just wanted to be involved in things that were on the cutting edge, on things that were affecting the future of the world. But I didn't think anything great would happen at all.
Were you certain about what you would achieve, or
no.
Was there also
I thought it was
some
most likely
smoke, in your future?
No, in fact, I expected to fail.
I expected to fail, but you still went, still went ahead and do it.
The reason I expected to fail was because most companies fail. So if 90% plus of companies fail, and I have no track record of making companies work, then, I mean, basically the most likely outcome is failure. But I didn't think it was super risky, because I talked to my professor and said that I was going to try to start an internet company, and that it would probably not work, and would he mind if I came back to class if it didn't work? And he said, sure, no problem.
And where did the original investment come from? Your own pocket money or financed by your mother? Or what?
Yes. Well, no. So I had about $3,000 and a computer, and then my brother came and joined, and he had about, I think, $5,000. And then another friend of ours came. He had $6,000. So this was not a lot. And in the beginning, we were just we didn't have enough money to rent an apartment and an office. So the office was actually cheaper. So we slept in the office. And we thought maybe it was more impressive to have an office. You know, you can't have people come to an apartment.
Yeah.
But at night we would just sleep on the couch in the office, and then we would go to the YMCA to shower. And in the very beginning, we only had one computer, so the website only worked during the day because at night I was programming software.
Okay. Well, I mean, your brother and a friend joined you, but you were ready to fail. How did you convince them to join you then?
Oh, they thought it would fail too.
How did that work out?
It worked out pretty well in the end.
Yeah.
We ended up growing the business, and it ended up getting sold for about $300 million.
So when a young man suddenly got, you know, tens of millions and then $1 billion, were you blown away for a while at least?
Yeah, you bet, absolutely. It was kind of
What
exciting.
did you do with that money? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
what was it like, you know, to have a check like that?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was great. Yeah, in fact, they mailed a check they sent the check in the mail, which is kind of crazy. I was like, this giant check in the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the craziest things you did?
Yeah, that was, yeah. Well, I was with Peter Thiel, one of my co-founders of PayPal. We were actually just driving up Sandy Hill Road. We were going to visit Mike Moritz at Sequoia Capital. And Peter was asked me, like, so what can this car do? Yeah. And then famous last words, I said, watch this. and I floored it and did a lane change, and the back wheels broke loose, and the car spun around. And then we hit the embankment and knocked the car into the air, which continued spinning like a discus, like 3 feet in the air. Bam, landed going the original direction, like it was like in a movie, and blew out the suspension. And like I drove to the side of the road, and I was like, holy cow. That was crazy.
Crazy.
After that, I took driving lessons on the McLaren because it's like a difficult car to drive.
Are you a very prudent driver nowadays?
I think I'm a fairly prudent driver, yes.
Yeah.
I had a tough choice there because I could either provide all of the money for SpaceX or all of the money for Tesla and then increase the chance that one of them would survive, or I have to split the money. Yeah. But if I split the money, then maybe both will die. I mean, you can imagine, like, it's almost like if you had 2 children and you have only so much food, what do you do? So
what was the choice?
I split it.
So at those closest moment of a failure, what did you say to yourself? You know, can I survive this? And
no,
you didn't question yourself.
No, no. It was more. I mean, it was just the difficulty is that in those situations, like, there's so much responsibility that you have to the employees and to the investors who have come along. So I would have been really disappointed if I had not been able to keep my responsibility to have the company survive. You said you almost had a nervous breakdown. Where did the tenacity or the resilience come from? But I mean, I remember the closest I ever came to a nervous breakdown. I never thought I was someone who, you know, I thought nervous breakdowns, that's ridiculous. You know, why would people have such a thing? But I remember waking up on the Sunday before Christmas in 2008 and thinking, like, damn, this is the closest I've ever gotten, you know? And it was looking pretty grim because at that point, you know, even though the 4th launch of SpaceX had succeeded, we were still running out of money because we had three failures and only 1 success. Still not enough. And then the financing round for Tesla had not closed, and we had only 2 days, maybe two. I think it was like 2 or 3 days, maybe, to close it before Christmas. So I was like, man, this could be a really bad end of the year. Maybe both companies will fail.
Did you cry? Screams?
No, I wasn't. No, I didn't cry.
Smash your apartment?
No.
No.
My sleep was difficult. But they called and they said that SpaceX had won this $1.4 billion contract.
What was your reaction to that piece of news?
I said, I love you. Which I don't think is a normal response for NASA contracting officers.
Yeah.
So that was good. And then a few days later, we closed the Tesla financing round on the last hour of the last day when it was possible, which was 6 p.m., Christmas Eve, 2008.
So failures are not the most terrible things. Whether you have to learn from it and react to it.
Yeah, exactly. When you're building something new, there's going to be mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's important to recognize those mistakes, acknowledge them, and take corrective action. And the success of a company is very much more about how quick are you to fix the mistakes, not will you make mistakes.
Or admit mistakes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you see the difference between a startup that is successful and one that is not, and it's because the successful one, they both made mistakes, but the successful one recognized the mistakes, fixed them very quickly, and the unsuccessful one tries to deny that the mistakes exist.
Extremely smart people are sometimes quite arrogant because they believe in what they believe in, right? And so when they face criticism, it's less likely to admit, they can make mistakes. Was that in your case?
I learned it when I was studying physics. In physics, you're taught to always question yourself. You're taught to always assume that you're wrong, not assume that you're right, and you have to prove yourself not wrong. And so I think that physics framework is really where I learned it, and it's very effective for learning counterintuitive things that aren't obvious.
So you are very famous in saying that failure is actually an option, and if you're not failing, that means you're not innovative enough.
Yeah, it's not like I like failure. Who likes failure is terrible. But if you only do things that are certain to succeed, then you're only going to be doing very obvious things.
Being innovative can be very exciting in life. Doing business sometimes requires, persistence, and sometimes could be very boring. Do you have the same fun from innovation as from business, running a business?
Well, I mean,
or would you rather to be just an innovator, engineer, instead of a business owner or runner?
I mean, I'd love to just do innovation and just do engineering. But you raise a good point, because a lot of life in general, in any job, there's you have to do your chores.
Because nobody else can do that for you, right?
Well, I think to be successful at almost anything, you have to do the tough stuff and as well as the enjoyable stuff. You have to do the boring stuff as well as the non-boring stuff. And if you don't do your chores, then bad things will happen. But if they don't do the things that they don't like to do, then the company will be in trouble. Yeah. You have to, you basically, it's more fun to cook the meal than to clean the dishes, okay? But you need to clean the dishes.
You need to do both.
Yes, you need to do both, exactly.
So what are some of the ideas that excite you today? Because there are so many brilliant ideas around the world. How could you keep focused on the things you're doing instead of being distracted by so many other good ideas?
There's a lot of opportunity in electrification of cars, of aircraft, and of boats. And I think there's a particular opportunity for a supersonic vertical takeoff and landing electric jet. That's something I'd love to do at some point in the future if my time allows.
So even machines are taking a lot of functions away from us. There are still functions that we have to deliver ourselves. For example, fatherhood.
Sure.
So how would you educate your 5 boys?
Actually, I created a little school. Yeah.
What kind of school? Could you describe to us?
Sure. It's small. It's only got 14 kids now, and it'll have 20 kids in September. It's called Ad Astra, which means to the stars. That's maybe a bit different from most other schools, is that there aren't any grades. There's no not grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 type of thing. Making all the children go in the same grade at the same time, like an assembly line.
I know.
Because some people love English or languages, some people love math, some people love music. and they have different abilities at different times. It makes more sense to cater the education to match their aptitudes and abilities. So I think that's one principle. Another is that it's important to teach problem solving, or teach to the problem, not to the tools. So this would be like, let's say you're trying to teach people about how engines work, or you could start by a more traditional approach would be to say, well, we're going to teach you all about screwdrivers and wrenches, and you're going to have a course on screwdrivers, a course on wrenches, and all these things. And this is a very difficult way to do it. A much better way would be like, here's the engine. Now let's take it apart. How are we going to take it apart? Oh, you need a screwdriver. That's what the screwdriver is for. You need a wrench. That's what the wrench is for. And then a very important thing happens, which is that the relevance of the tools becomes apparent.
So all your 5 boys are in that school?
Yes.
Until when? This is from preschool?
I don't know. So far it's only 1-year-old. They like it.
They like it?
Yeah.
And you want to keep them away from regular schools?
No, I just didn't see that the regular schools, they weren't doing the things that I thought should be done. Like, those 2 principles, they weren't adhering to those principles. So I thought, well, let's see what we can do. Maybe creating a school will be better. And I actually hired a teacher from the school they were at, who also agreed with me that there was a better way to do it.
Have they surprised you in a way of their innovative thinking?
Yeah, it seems to be going pretty well. I mean, the kids really love going to school. I think that's a good sign. I mean, I hated going to school when I was a kid. It was torture. So the fact that they actually think vacations are too long, like they want to go back to school.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's weird.
I know.
Well, there are so many young people, the millennial generation, who wants to start up their own company with the, all these accessibility of the internet and such a big market here in China. What's your advice for them? Because sometimes they may easily go to the daydreaming part or the wishful thinking part.
Sure.
What's the balance between imagination and, pragmatism, basically?
I mean, I do think that, in terms of creating a company, what Edison said, which was like it's 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, is true. So a lot of it in creating a company is execution. Like, you start off with an idea, and that idea is mostly wrong. And then you adapt that idea and keep refining it, and you listen to criticism. Some criticism you discard, try to discard the wrong criticism, try to listen to the correct criticism, and then engage in sort of a recursive self-improvement and constantly refining it and making it better. And you have to work super hard, and that's very important. And then just keep iterating on a loop which says, am I doing something useful for other people? Because that's what a company is supposed to do. A company is just a group of people gathered together to produce a product or service. And a company should only exist if that product or service is truly useful to customers.
I guess, you're not going to be running Tesla all the time, or what's the next step for you?
Well, certainly I'll be running Tesla and SpaceX into the foreseeable future, and I've got a key goal with with Tesla is to be able to make an affordable, great electric car, a sort of 3rd generation car, because you can only change the world for electric cars if people can afford to buy a great electric car. Affordable electric cars are not great, and the great electric cars are not affordable. And we need them great electric cars that are affordable. So that's the goal with with Tesla. Now with SpaceX, it's a bit of a longer-term goal because we need to make reusability work with rockets. That's fundamental to improving the cost of spaceflight by a factor of 100.
Yeah.
And then we need to make the rockets really big and be able to send large amounts of people and cargo to Mars. And right now, nobody's been to Mars. So this is a very tall hill to climb.
Do you want to be one of those to try the trip?
I'd like to. I mean, I'll go as long as I think SpaceX will be okay without me. Then I'll go to Mars.
Well, the final question is, which one of the Iron Man series is your favorite? I know that the
probably
director and Robert
Iron Man 1,
Downey Jr. Went
yeah.
to see you and got the inspiration from this idea.
Yeah.
How did you like the movie?
Well, I think I like Iron Man 1 best. I wasn't in Iron Man 1, but I was in Iron Man 2, and yeah, but I thought they were fun movies. I really enjoyed, and I got to know Jon Favreau and Robert Downey Jr. They're great guys.
So do you feel there is a kind of destiny for you? No?
Sometimes I feel that, but I mean, I don't know if there's any merit to that feeling.
What are the rules that you want to live by? Because it seems that you have broken many rules. But what are some of the rules that you would abide by?
I want to be useful. And I want to be able to look back and say that my actions had a good effect on the world.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Elon. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.